The transcript of the closed-door meeting with Hunter Biden's former business partner, Devon Archer, just released. Archer telling lawmakers that when anyone asked Hunter, quote, can D.C. help, it was code for, quote, can the big guy help? Archer also claiming that Hunter Biden's influence and the Biden name served as, quote, defensive leverage for securing deals with foreign partners. And Biden's meetings with Hunter's business partners were a lot more common than we thought. Archer describing 2 dinners with foreign business executives and politicians that then Vice President Biden and his son attended. Then Hunter allegedly received a Porsche days after one of those meetings. Democrats still say that Joe and Hunter have done nothing wrong.
He wasn't just talking to the son, right?
Devon Archer says they never discussed the business, that he wasn't involved in the business.
Over the course of 10-year relationship, Hunter may have put his father on the phone with any number of different people, and they never once spoke about any business dealings.
Nobody has produced a single iota of evidence suggesting that President Biden was involved in any corruption.
Now, Harold, would you put your parents on a speakerphone during a business call with associates, or take a call and put it on speakerphone? What would be the purpose of that?
Well, my dad's not the vice president, so my dad and I have a business together, so I would. But if my dad were the vice president, or if he were in an official government position, and this is, I think, the heart of this issue here for me. Politically, this is bad. This is embarrassing. If you call your dad 30 times and he's vice president, you're got clients. It's an embarrassing thing to do. It's illegal if your father or your mother or a family member acts in that official government position to help you in that in what you're doing. If I were the White House, I wouldn't be as worried about what Mr. Archer said before the committee. Because as embarrassing as it may be, I think they're going to have to straighten out some of the inconsistencies, because it's clear that what President Biden has said about not talking with Hunter about his business, if Devon Archer is right, then clearly that's not true. But it's not illegal. The worry I would have if I were in the White House is that the investigation on Hunter Biden is still underway and still ongoing at the Justice Department, which means that all of this is there. And the only concern you'd have to have if you're President Biden is, did you do something on behalf of your son in your official position as vice president? And secondarily, are there records showing that you may have been compensated for it? That's an offense that would cause, I think, a lot of alarm for Democrats, Republicans, independents, and might even get the ire of the Justice Department as well.
Yeah, and Dina, you know about the messaging on this. And so we've seen this evolution from Hunter got no money from any businesses in China to there's now a for Pinocchio entry on that issue to, well, the president, didn't talk to Hunter about his business to, well, the president wasn't in business with Hunter.
So when the goalposts are moving, you know that there's something wrong. And I also think that the Democrats in the White House continue to try to make this really complicated for the American people to figure out. But America wasn't born yesterday. This is not complicated. And you also, when you've done something wrong, right? And one of the things that they have in the government when you become a commissioned officer, for example, at the White House, you go through the 14 guidelines to ethical behavior. And by my read, just looking at that, I would imagine that just by even calling the president and the vice president, taking 20 calls, that violated some of the 14 rules. And imagine this, too. The Hunter Biden himself is not under the ethical obligation. Biden is. So that's why the Obama White House was raising red flags, saying, is everybody cool with this? No, you're not cool with it because you know that it's wrong. And I would imagine if you're a White House spokesperson, you don't want to be asked, like, are you okay with that? Is that how you would do it? Because if you even have an instance where it might look like there was a conflict of interest or someone was trying to use you to get to somebody else to try to show that they have influence somewhere, you're supposed to report that under the strict reading of the rules. So to me, this is like, the White House is trying to say, well, obviously Joe Biden did nothing wrong. I disagree. I think that the phone calls, the dinners are tricky. Do you know how many dinners I did not go to? Partly because I wanted to go home. But you can't accept gifts. Who paid for the dinners?
Well, exactly. That's a good question. And you know this better than anybody. I mean, if you're an official at that level, you just don't move around Washington. I mean, Jesse, it's not like he thought, I'm out for a stroll. I'm going to go to Cafe Milano. I mean, you've got Secret Service protection. There is a plan to move these people from point A to point B. Devon Archer says there were multiple dinners.
there's emails showing that Joe was invited to the dinner and it was a planned on event. There's a famous scene from The Godfather where everybody sits down and they say, "We never talk business at the dinner table." So maybe they weren't talking business at the dinner table, but that's not the point when you have 17 burner phones, when you have 6 alias email addresses, when you're communicating on encrypted apps. And like, why would Hunter ever put his cell phone on speaker with his father and start talking numbers? Hunter's stupid, but he's not dumb. Now, before this was like a conspiracy theory, and now, yeah, Joe Biden had dinner with a Burisma executive. What? And yeah, he did fire the prosecutor investing Burisma, okay? And that's what Trump got impeached for. IRS agents are now, we're being told, currently delivering offshore banking account information tied to the Bidens to House Ways and Means Committee. That's not good. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't hit Joe Biden's bank account. When you're an old man, what do you do with your money? You try to get rid of it so the full family has it. You try to give it away so your granddaughter and your grandson and your daughter-in-law have the money. That's what old people do with money, and that's what Joe is doing.
Well, and Greg, Democrats are saying that none of this actually has that smoking gun. There is no, as Harold said, you're talking about
Porsche.
money. Smoking Porsche.
Smoking Porsche.
But the president himself not tied to these accounts
he's
or
tied to it.
transfers of
He's
money.
the big guy. Let's come on.
Yep.
That Porsche, 140 grand Porsche, wasn't given to Hunter because of his amazing skills at predicting the weather. That's a quid pro quo. And I got to go back. I mentioned it in the A block. You should feel really stupid if you fell for that impeachment for that phone call. Really stupid. Do you remember how the media were just in like multiple orgasms over this thing? Sorry, Shannon. Her face just exploded. But I just remember that all he was saying was there's something bad going on over here. You should look into it. And guess what? Now we're looking into it, and it's something bad. You know, Jesse brings up the Burisma prosecutor. You know, we had to accept this media story that there were all these people that were behind him getting fired. It's a tactic that sounds just like the letter. The 52 intelligence. Like, the reason for wanting him fired was because people wanted him fired. Yeah. That was the reason. That's not the reason. The reason was because somebody called them and says, look, we want to get this out of here. If we get this guy out of here, then he gets a Porsche, you get something, we get something. So let's all get in this together. That needs to be proven, but it sounds pretty obvious. But this is no different. But the reasoning behind this was the same as that letter. The letter that said the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinfo. Just get a bunch of people together and say they were behind it. It's the same trick. We see through you.
Well, and according to the whistleblowers, the IRS ones who've come forward, the FBI knew well in advance that was a legit laptop when that letter came out and didn't say anything about it publicly.
Do you think President Biden will use the First Amendment defense if he gets...
Now you're getting cheeky. Okay.
Maybe delusion.